Okay. Are we up? Are we up? Yes, YouTube says we are up, even though it's not showing the picture. There it is. Now it popped in. Didn't want to start talking before, I made sure we were actually recording. Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Barden here. Today I'm going to be talking about how to make sequences in P5 using the Tone library. I'm going to be using these primarily for making musical melodies that our synthesizer objects can make. Before I get into all the stuff, just remember, as always, all the important links and everything, as well as some to the code that you're seeing right on the screen that we're going to be making for the whole video, are all in the description down below. If you enjoy it, if you have questions or want to show off what you do with all this knowledge, put that in the comments. Subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. I'll probably say that again towards the end. But let's just get right into it. Before I actually make the code, though, I do want to talk just a little bit about what a sequence is and how and why we want to use it and how it works with the synthesizers. So a sequence is a type of event in Tone, and if you go to the reference pages here, you can see that sequences are in events along with loops, parts, patterns, things like that. And basically, the core of what this is. I'll get into a little more detail in the following video when you can use Tone events. But today I'm focusing just on the sequences. But basically, what we can do is we can set up a clock to happen in our sketch. So this clock is running in the background, and then P5 will use that clock in order to schedule various events. So that's a very useful thing to have. So we'll come back to this page, but everything about sequences is here. There's a lot of information up there. So we'll try to kind of get into that as we go. I'll be referencing some of the textbook pages, and I have a link to this in the description down below, like I said. So that way, if you wanted to kind of go through here, you can sort of follow the steps. I'm not going to go through a bunch of things right here, but there are a lot of things you can do with sequences and tone events and things like that. But just for today, I'm focusing on being able to play a musical melody. Okay. So with that being said, let's start. I mentioned we had to make a clock. This is called the transport here, and we need to make that. I've got transport up here, and we just tone dot transport, and we can set up various important things. So there's some things that are important to know. We have the start and stop methods. I think those are pretty self-explanatory. Toggle goes between those. Second is what time it is. Position is using like bars and beats instead of seconds. And then BPM is how many beats per minute, the tempo of the music. Start and BPM are going to be the important ones for today. And again, you can stop all of this at any time in your code by using the stop or toggle right there. So let's get into that. I've got a few different things, but you'll notice in this example I have here, we need to go in and we need to set up the tone.transport. And we don't have to make a variable or anything. Transport just exists. So we can set all of that up. So I'm just going to go into my setup function. And I like to do this very last in the setup. So I can set all the stuff, and then we start the clock and we're ready to go. We don't have to worry about the clock running when we haven't set everything up. So we say tone.transport.bpm. Beats per minute. We're setting up a clock. We have to tell it how fast to go. How fast does the computer go? Is it like that, or is it a lot slower? BPM. There we go. And that's just a property. We can assign it a number. So I'm just going to say 100 beats per minute for right now. Again, this can be just about anything. The higher the number, the faster our melodies are going to play. You can set the other properties as well, depending on what you need, and you can look through the reference material on your own for that. But once you're done, we can just say tone.transport.start. transport. There we go. Excuse me 1 second. It rained recently here in Louisiana, so all the pollen has come out of the trees, and it's messing with my allergies. It's real fun. Um, so if I have to cough and hack up again, that's what that'll be. Um, okay, so we've set up the transport to go at 100 beats per minute. We can change that if we want. I've already got a synth loaded into here. This is the same one from my synthesizer video I did about a week before I recorded this one. So if you're kind of watching these in order, this will probably look familiar. The next thing we have to do is make a sequence. There's a bunch of steps involved. And I've got kind of all of these, like if you follow these 7 steps, you'll have everything here. So unlike transport, we do need to make an object to contain this sequence so we can tell it to start and stop whenever we want it to. So I'm just going to call this sequence 1, like I had in that example down below. It's pretty self-explanatory. And we need to give it a few bits of information. First off, we have to make it, and say, hey, it's a new sequence. That's pretty new, or not pretty new. I'm looking at the word new. That's pretty standard for what we've done in Tone. So I'm going to go down here and say sequence 1, say new tone.sequence. Now we just have to tell it, the sequence, what to do. And I've got this bit right here. I recommend just copying and pasting. So if you go into the I can't talk anymore, the link to this sketch, you can copy and paste some of this and have it on your sketch right there. You can go to this page and copy it. There's a very similar thing in the sequence up here. But basically, just to explain what this is, these are all the arguments and things that go into these parentheses. So I'm actually going to delete this first one. So we need to say what all this is. So basically, there's going to be a function that gets called at every step of the sequence. In this case, 100 times per minute, we're going to be doing this. That's not that fast. That's about somewhere around there. I wasn't really counting. All we're going to do is we're going to trigger our synthesizer, and the one I have in that example I called simple synth. So I'm just going to change that to synth to match the name of my synthesizer that I want to do. We're going to set up the notes, all that stuff. We're going to, what's important is this array and this string right here. All right, so this, or it's going to be an array, so I kind of spoiled that, is going to contain the notes to play. So we need to do that. I'm going to go back up here and let melody. This can be named whatever. I just think it's pretty self-explanatory to name it melody, but you'll need to make sure that these match up. But it's going to be an array. Now, this is where we say what notes do we want it to play in what order. So you could do this with numbers to get frequencies. I think it's a little more intuitive is the phrase I'll use if you use musical pitches. I'm not going to go through all the musical pitches, music theory, all the keyboard stuff in this video. You can find that very easily with some creative Googling or YouTube searches to find some more of that information. Just know that I'm going to be using letter names to represent specific frequencies and then a number to determine which octave that is. So if I had G2 and G3, G3 is higher than G2. In fact, let's just use that to start with. So as a string, we just say what each note is. So let's do G2, D2, C2, C2. Actually, let's make this D3 and C3. There we go. So I'm just going to start for right there. So every element of this array is a beat in our sequence. So every time that clock clicks, we're going to play this note, and then the next one, and then the next one. I'll show that in just a second. That trigger check at least. Oh, I almost forgot me to say dot to destination. That's important. So we've got all of that right there. So let's just run this, and we should. What did I miss? I missed something. What did I miss? Okay. Oh, I'm just an idiot. I forgot to tell it to start. So, tell you what, let's do an on-screen button as a bit of a callback to my previous lessons. Melody, start. Okay, so melody, start. It's going to be create button. Play my music loud. That'll be what's on it. We gotta tell it what to happen when we do it. I'll call this function music. All right. So the callback function music, and we'll just say sequence one dot start. So we're starting that sequence. Cursor's in weird places that I'm not expecting it to be. Okay, so now let's run it. I've got this, and I'm just going to keep it down here. I may move it up into the middle of the canvas later, but now when I click this, this will start the sequence, which, again, the tone transport's already started at 100 beats per minute, so we'll hear that every time that happens, we'll play these three notes. So let's... We've got that there. Let's see what I'll make a stop button. Melody stop. Melody stop. Stop. Music. Silence. Turn off that music. Okay, so now we've got function silence, and instead of stop, we'll just stop. So now what we should hear is the notes, and then we stop it. So that's the basic sequence right there. A few things, because technically I could end this right now, but I think there's a few things that you should know before we wrap it up. The first is that a quarter note in this context is getting one beat, do, 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 and so on. If we wanted to make our melodies instead be an eighth note, that would make it twice as fast. So do, 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 and so on. So, in fact, I've got it listed out kind of here, some of the ones you can pick. So, at a quarter note, one element in your array is being played per beat versus 2, 4, and so on. You can change it. So maybe I wanted to really slow it down. I could do a half note. And set that up. I'll put this back at quarter note. Another way we can change the tempo is, just affecting the tone transport. So now it's twice as fast this way. It should have been twice as fast. Why didn't that go twice as fast? I'll have to come back to that because that should have made things twice as fast. I don't know if something is updated that I wasn't aware of to change exactly how that works. Maybe should I put this before? No, something has changed from what I was from the last time I did this. So, I'll put it back there. But that should work as you make the clock go faster, so there's less time between each tick. This may be something causing that. No time. I'm just looking at all this stuff to see maybe there's something in here. Change this to time. That was. I'm not gonna spend forever looking for this because I really don't know what's causing the issue. So we'll leave it there, but that's something that you should be able to do is tweak the speed of the clock. But changing the speed of the clock can affect other events in the future. So just be aware of that. So if you made the master clock go a lot faster, it's going to affect all of the things that are relying on it. So in the next video, again, I'm going to talk about scheduling events and having automatic changes occur. But again, we'll get into that a little bit more in detail, and I'll look into why that didn't work and mention that in the video. The last thing I want to note is how you can set up subdivisions. So maybe you don't want just a da 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 all the time. Maybe you want a little more excitement in your melody. Well, again, every element in your array is one beat. So if you want to have multiple things in a beat, you can just put an array in your array. So do 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 do. So let's do that. G2 A. These can be lowercase or capital. A2. There we go. Do 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 do. And then let's say B2 B2 and last but not least A2 again. Oh yeah. So just tidy that up. So again, we've got these three things here, and if I run this, now it stopped. Oop, that's not what I wanted. There we go. But that's essentially it. So you have to have your synthesizer that's making the notes to play the sequence. We have to make the sequence and tell it, what to do each time. In this case, we are going to trigger the attack, the attack release of the synthesizer using whatever note we fill in from the melody, and then what that is within the sequence, like what each note is worth in the melody. So it's a quarter note versus something else. We then have to make the melody, which again, that can be whatever you want musically. And again, each element in the array is a beat or a half beat. It depends on exactly how you set this up. But you can get your little subdivisions by putting an array within your array. And you can have as many of these as you want. So maybe if you wanted to fit 5 notes into a beat, you would have 5 notes in this inner array, or 3 or 17 or however many you need in that little array, and it will be played in an equal division of that beat. The other thing we have to do is set up the transport to, run the sequence. If we don't have the clock that tells it when to do each part of the sequence, it's not going to work. So we have to set that up and tell it to begin. What if I put this here? That didn't change it. I'm just trying to try different ideas. But that's pretty much going to wrap it out for here. We then just have to tell our sequence to start, or if you want it to stop, we can tell it stop. So if you can have multiple melodies for different parts of your sketch that you're doing, and okay, so maybe we play one melody in one scene, and when we move to the other, we're going to use the stop and start commands to stop this one and start the next one. And that's really it. I'm going to wrap it out here. Again, if you enjoyed it, you learned something, like, subscribe, all the YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And I'll see you all the next time that